A to the K.
To the K.
To the K. Welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show, where we're coming at you quicker than a Baron Corbin squash match because it's the Rapid Roundup. And kicking things off with Smackdown this week, we had the blue side of the World Heavyweight Championship tournament bracket. AJ Styles defeating both Edge and Rey Mysterio in the first, and then Bobby beating both Sheamus and Austin Theory in the second. Ultimately, AJ goes on to defeat Bobby and will go on to face Seth Rollins to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion at Night of Champions, which is sure to be freaking phenomenal. Next up, we had Cameron Grimes making his debut on Smackdown and, much like the intro, defeated Baron Corbin in about 5 seconds. So, yeah, poor Corbin, poor guy, just can't seem to catch a break, but, you know, fair play to Cameron Grimes. Welcome to Smackdown. Next up, the Bloodline are out, and Roman heaps praise upon Solo, but he does berate Jimmy and Jay for their losses at Mania and the subsequent rematch as well. Paul Heyman says he's pulled some strings, and at Night of Champions, it's going to be Sami and Kevin Owens versus Roman and Solo Sikoa. Much to the shock of the Usos as well. So yeah, this just got spicy. Can you imagine if Roman wins yet another championship and ends up with 3 belts? I think everyone will go crazy. Next up, we had Damage Control continuing to be firmly out of control because Bayley tries to get the assist from Io by passing her the belt. However, that causes a distraction and gives enough time for Liv Morgan to be able to score the win and for the champs to retain their titles. But we'll have more on this later because apparently the match didn't necessarily go to plan. Next, so we got to see Pretty Deadly make their debut as well this week. And do you know what? I've not watched much of NXT, but I'll tell you what, I enjoyed them. And it looks like they're going to be heading for a feud with the Brawling Brutes. So I think a match is booked for next week between those guys. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do on the main roster. And yeah, bit of fresh talent for SmackDown. Following on from this, we have Bianca Belair coming out for a championship celebration for being the longest Raw Women's Champion of all time or something, even though she's now on SmackDown. You do the math. However, Asuka comes out with some... What's happened to her music, by the way? She used to have one of the most badass entrance songs of all time. She comes out to generic rock song number 12. Yeah. Def Rebel, is it you? Is it someone else? No one knows what's happening, but you need to get better. But Asuka comes out and she sprays mist in the eyes of Bianca Belair and then leaves. So, yeah, Asuka playing firmly the heel, and Bianca Belair did not like being sprayed in the face with mist, apparently. So, that was pretty much SmackDown. Heading over to Monday Night Raw. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn kick off the show addressing the Bloodline and obviously Roman and Solo challenging at Night of Champions. However, the Judgment Day come out and basically say the line starts with them after the match at Night of Champions. They're the ones who want the next shot. Damian Priest hits Sami with a cheap shot, and then basically the rest of them work over Kevin Owens and get out the ring. So what's going to happen there? Well, we'll find out in a moment. We then have the match that was advertised last week. We have Shinsuke Nakamura taking on The Miz, and yeah, Shinsuke gets the win. It was a match, and it happened. Yes, it did. Gunther comes out, introducing himself to the Raw fans ahead of the Battle Royal to determine the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship at Night of Champions. The final 3 it came down to was Ricochet, Bronson Reed, and Mustafa Ali, with Ali getting the win. Not too sure how I feel about that one, to be honest. No, not saying anything bad against Ali. I think he's a great talent, but his whole new power of positivity gimmick is probably one of the worst of the ones that he's had, and that guy's been a revolution. So, yeah. But hey, we're going to get Mustafa Ali versus Gunther at Night of Champions, so I'm sure it could be a good match. Next out, we have Becky Lynch, and she comes to thank Trish Stratus for giving her a face to direct all the badness in her head towards. She obviously brings up the fact that she attacked her daughter, calling her stupid, and basically, yeah, it's pissed her off, damn it. So she says she's going to show Trish how thankful she is at Night of Champions. So we are getting that match as expected, and I am looking forward to it. Yes, I am. Following on from this, we have Dominic Mysterio taking on Xavier Woods again on a rematch from last week. And again, a bit of a damp squib, this one. So Rhea ends up hitting Xavier on the outside, and then Dom kind of manages to pin him with very little effort, really. So bit of a snooze fest, and I don't think Mami had the impact. You know, it didn't look like she really took him out. She literally just hit him, and then that was enough to, I don't know, make him take the loss. So yeah, it happened. Next, so we got to see JD McDonough, who was in the Battle Royal earlier, and he eliminated Dolph Ziggler. So Kathy Kelly catches up with him, asks him why he took out Dolph, and essentially he says he's here to make a statement. Dolph's a former world champ, a former Money in the Bank winner, so he's here to basically put everyone on notice. And in the background, as he's walking off, we see Finn Balor watching on. What does it all mean? Are we going to get a new member of the Judgment Day? Fellow Irishman in there? Who knows? But yeah, so let's see what happens there. Veer Mahan, he's here. He's arrived as part of Indus Sher, and the pair of them beat up some local talent with Jinder Mahal looking on at ringside. Then Cody's here, and what does he want to talk about? This time he wants to talk about frogs and a scorpion for some reason. So he tells that story, and basically also says Brock's not here. But it's not about the belt between these two. It's about who's the big thing on Raw. You know, Brock used to be the next big thing. Now he's just next. And basically he's in Cody's way. So yeah, again, did what it needed to do. Built it up a little bit. I believe they've announced Brock and Cody face to face under one roof for the upcoming Raw. So we will see what shenanigans unfold then. So I mentioned earlier on SmackDown, Liv and Raquel defended their championships. They were meant to be defending them tonight against Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. However, Liv Morgan's injured, unfortunately, which is terrible news. Injured her shoulder in that match. So after Chelsea Green and Sonya trying to kind of convince Adam Pearce to strip them of the belts, instead Raquel goes one-on-one with Chelsea Green and gets the win. However, on her way back up the ramp, she's attacked by a returning Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, who essentially say they want the belts. So, yay, Ronda's back. Woo. At least he's not in the main title picture, I guess, but still. So one of the highlights of Raw this week, we had a Seth Rollins sit-down interview with Corey Graves, and yeah, it was good, man. I'd like to see more stuff like this, but essentially the crux of it was, he says the reason we need a new World Heavyweight Champion is because we need change. People at the top don't seem to want to take risks with their titles. They're more just about protecting themselves than moving the industry forward. And just as we're about to find out what his thoughts are on Roman Reigns, we find out it's to be continued next week. Now, basically, we know Seth is currently filming on the new Captain America movie, I believe. Something to do with Marvel anyway, so that's probably why they've gone with this approach. He's unavailable due to filming, so they filmed these little vignettes with him, interview things. So yeah, I enjoyed it though, and it looks like we're going to get more follow-up on that next week. Then for the main event, we get to see Finn Balor and Damian Priest taking on Sami and Kevin Owens. Earlier in the night, we got to see Paul Heyman do some scheming with Imperium. Like, this was pretty much the Gunther show tonight. He was backstage, he was out there for the Battle Royal, and then he's involved with the thing with Paul Heyman, and then he's involved in the main event as well. So Gunther has definitely made himself known on Raw. But yeah, it seems Heyman made a deal with Imperium, and ultimately they help the Judgment Day pick up the win in this. So, gosh darn it, we had Kevin Owens and Sami in our fantasy faction. Shout out Cheap Pop. We were hoping, for them to get some more points this week, but now they take a loss. So thanks very much, Gunther. So before we move over to AEW, here's some of the stuff that's coming up this Friday, advertised on SmackDown. We are going to get to see Roman Reigns and Solo having a face-to-face with Sami and Kevin Owens. The Usos are set to take on Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar, and the Brawling Brutes are going to face Pretty Deadly. Plus, AJ Styles on the Grayson Waller effect. Yay. Meanwhile, on Raw, announced already, as I said, Brock and Cody under one roof. And Becky and Trish are having a contract signing because they are always so fun. Moseying over to AEW, kicking off Dynamite with a double Jeopardy match. We have Cesaro against Rey Fenix. The winner essentially gets a shot at each other's title. If Rey Fenix wins, he gets a shot at the World Championship of Claudio. If Claudio wins, he and a partner of his choosing get a shot at the Tag Championships. Claudio wins, so Blackpool Combat Club are going after the tag belts in Ring of Honor by the looks of things. We got some pretty cool surprises this week. So both Miro and Thunder Rosa make an appearance backstage. Renee Paquette tries to interview them, but they both snub her and go straight into Tony's office. What does it all mean? Potentially something to do with Collision, potentially something to do with the announcement that's going to be dropping, I don't know, today, tomorrow. Excited to see what all this is, but just so cool to see Miro back, and hopefully, what this means, is Thunder able to compete? Is it more for a commentary capacity? Who knows? We had promos from all of the 4 pillars throughout the night, which was a nice touch. I mean, let's be honest, 3 of them can't talk very well. But you know what? MJF steals the show with this, basically compares all 4 of them to the Beatles. Haha. Look at this t-shirt. It's pure coincidence. I didn't even realise I was wearing this. But basically, MJF says he is Paul McCartney. He's the best. Explains how the gap has grown between them since they all started. And basically, his reign of terror has just begun. And he's so right, though, to be fair. And it's no disrespect to the other 3 guys, but MJF's on a completely different level to the other 3. And I don't think there's any serious threat to his championship at Double or Nothing. But hey, it will be a fun match. I'm sure it will. Next up, the bane of my Wednesday existence. Mark Briscoe comes out, reveals he's going to be the special guest referee in the match that nobody wants to see at Double or Nothing, which is FTR defending the tag titles against Jeff fucking Jarrett for some reason and Jay Lethal. And basically, alcohol gets in the eyes of Dax, and somehow he ends up pile driving Mark Briscoe. He couldn't see what he was doing, so I often go around pile driving people when I can't see what I'm doing, so you can see how mistakes are made. Then we had a backstage thing with Chris Jericho where he's lawyered up. He must have been to see our friend Mega. And essentially he has got Adam Cole banned from the arena whenever he is there. I don't know how they're going to follow through with that since Jericho's pretty much there every week. But Roderick Strong comes up and says that they've got a Falls Count Anywhere match next week. And he's also lawyered up, so the JAS are banned from the arena. But it's a Falls Count Anywhere match, so methinks we won't be contained to just the arena, so I'm sure we'll still see everybody anyway. Tony Khan also had an announcement. He basically says the stars are lined up waiting for some competition. Says it's clearer than ever that AEW can produce even more great content. There's going to be an announcement on TNT, which they will follow up on Dynamite. So I sense a collision coming, and I'm excited to see more information about that. Then we had Orange Cassidy defending the international title against Daniel Garcia in a pretty decent match. Cassidy's having a pretty decent run, to be fair, with the new international title. And he retains the belt here over Daniel Garcia. Christian Cage comes out next to some nuclear heat, basically booed out of the building, says the TNT title is not going to be Wardlow's for much longer. It still really upsets me that we're not going to get to see Luchasaurus versus Wardlow, because that's the match I want to see, but maybe there'll be some developments, I don't know. Next, you've got to give some props where props are due. The grudge match between Anna JAS and Julia Hart. Massive credit to these ladies. They absolutely deserve this moment. They've both stepped it up in terms of in-ring ability, their gimmicks, just everything about the whole presentation. And they got the opportunity to showcase their talent here, and they did just that. So really good job by those. And Julia Hart gets the win in a pretty, brutal match, to be fair. Next up, House of Black defend their trios titles under the new house rules. Along with this becomes some new bespoke lighting in effect for this, which look kind of cool, to be fair. I'm not always a massive fan of when they change things up just for kind of the sake of it for individual matches, but I don't know, it looked alright, gave it a little bit of a unique touch. The match itself with the new rules wasn't drastically different, basically no rope breaks, and you can hang outside up to a 20 count, I think. But either way, House of Black take on Best Friends and Bandito for some reason, and they retain. So, good match. Main event, Don Callis, you carny piece of shit. He was going to deliver, wasn't it? Great match from Moxley and Omega, as always. And just as Omega is about to... he hits the one winged angel on Moxley, just as he's about to get the win. That carny motherfucker comes over and stabs Kenny Omega in the head with a screwdriver, does the turn, and Moxley picks up the win. So what a Blackpool Combat Club going to look like with a carny piece of shit in their ranks, we will find out soon. But I think you can see this coming from a mile away, but it was still executed executed really well, and I enjoyed it, and a great match from those guys. Over onto Rampage now. So the Acclaimed win a trios match against Butcher Blade and Kip Sabian. So it's always, everyone loves the Acclaimed, let's be honest. So it's always fun to see those guys. We also had Toni Storm taking on Allysin Kay. She gets the win, and Saraya and Ruby Soho come down after the match for a beatdown. So yeah, they're still obviously the terrible faction that they are, in the best kind of way, I suppose, because they're just beating everyone up, which you love to see. Then we had, following on this, we had Kyle Fletcher taking on Action Andretti. Obviously, Fletcher took out Orange Cassidy, so I think it's kind of building up towards an international title match here. So no surprise, Fletcher gets the win. And yeah, maybe we'll see that title match soon. And then for the main event, we saw the Dark Order take on Swerve Strickland and Brian Cage, with the latter picking up the win. So, yeah, that was pretty much that. In terms of what's coming up, so Dynamite-wise, we've got Jericho and Roderick Strong, as I mentioned, so that should be fun. We've got Ricky Starks taking on Jay White this time. I was a bit disappointed when, Ricky beat up Juice Robinson so quickly. Bullet Club Gold isn't really kind of taken off by the looks of it, so Jay White probably needs to get the win here. We have Jack Perry taking on Roosh. We have Sammy Guevara in action. We're going to hear from Don Callis, and we've got Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida taking on the Outcasts as well. So a lot of fun all around, and this was the Rapid Roundup, and we will see you on the next one.